All right. Welcome everyone. Really great to have you join us here at this month. It's March AMA session. So we try to do like a monthly kind of like ask me anything, and that's just again for a chance for folks who just recently joined HoaQ to ask any questions regarding the community, the what we do, the deals and things like that. But we also like thought it'd just be also a good time to also like learn something new. So the last session we had Peter from We Capital join us for a session on valuations, like how do we think about valuations, different business models and how valuations work, and how it perhaps might start up as very flimsy at the very start of the very initial part of the startup's life cycle. Also, like again, pre-seed, seed, like it's all a valuation cap, and it's always based on vibes and inshallah. But also how perhaps in unit economy steps sets in, how again those again forecasts and revenue and other things actually then um, gets to become more solid, and then for growth stage and late stage investors, then valuation is more of a science than an art. For this session, we've thought to actually just shift gears from I think something so very mathematical and very hard to pin down, something perhaps where like at least there's a level of competency one can build when it comes to again like building or reviewing a pitch deck. And so today we have Ife from Berrywood Cap joining us as we look at the anatomy of a winning pitch deck. So as a founder, what should you be looking at actually putting in your pitch deck? As an investor who is reviewing a pitch deck, what should you be actually looking out for? So we'll just begin tapping into our experience of again a virtual reviewing hundreds, if not thousands of pitch deck to just again share again things that again stand out for us. It's be more like a very conversation like a conversation fire chat, and then of course we'll open it up to questions as well towards the tail end of the discussion. But again, if this is your first meeting, welcome to HoaQ. HoaQ is a community of operators and again professionals, creators, even founders and themselves as well, who have decided to again back early stage startups with then hard-earned cash, whether it's euros, pounds, naira, dollars. We don't discriminate, and also to also learn their skills and network as well. So we see founders who ask for intros to people or to again to particular entities and all, and it's really interesting to see the community really rally and leverage a network to really help these founders at the early stages, also with talent and hiring as well. Again, welcome. Again, we'll be toward the tail end of this conversation. If you have any questions of this session, if you have any questions about HoaQ, the joining process, the deals, whatever any questions you have, really we'll be able to answer that. But again, now we'll just jump into it. Thanks, Ife, for taking the time to chat with us. So if you want to just perhaps introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you got into again venture, just again your career as in venture capital.
That's a very interesting story. Hi everyone, my name is Ife Ojobaniko, and I work as an investment principal at Berrywood Capital. Prior to Berrywood Capital, I was with Microtraction, where I helped the investment team, as Nubi said, review thousands of applications and pitch decks, right? And the vision or the purpose across board has been the same: find the best high growth, high potential startups and just help them succeed. It was the mission at Microtraction, and it's still the mission here. On how I got into venture, I think my story is one of the very unlikely ones where this time in 2017, I was in traditional banking. Honestly, I had no idea what venture capital was. I had no idea what early stage investing was. And so from banking, all I just knew was I wanted to try something new. I was tired of wearing suits. I started wearing suits and just doing the normal routine 9 to 5, and I was getting really bored easily just because the tasks had become routine. So I went online, LinkedIn, and I really started cold mailing I just discovered tech at the time. And I knew there were a couple of startups. Oh, I knew that there was something called a startup, right? So I just started cold mailing. In the beginning, I talked to one merchant bank, talked to one another traditional bank, which was even more traditional than where I was. I also was in conversations with Timap, and Timap found out. So that was my first foray into tech. Was there operations HR for a little bit before I found microtraction. And yeah, here we are.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think many folks are really accidental, like VCs. I think perhaps back in the day, people would say, "Oh yes, I want to be like I don't know," but but I think especially in a new or maturing ecosystem like Africa, like it's really hard to say. Um, yeah, like not to like find everybody just like again accidentally without going from again founder operator to investor or again going from again like
Exactly.
finances to then going like yeah, it's really interesting to see. So great
I
to see
think
that.
I think Yeah, I think usually, except maybe you've had an Ivy League education and you're coming from the US where VC is a thing or P is a thing. Another frequent path is if you have been a strong PE person in Africa already, and maybe you're just tired of talking to mature companies, you now want
Right.
to, but then you know what startups are. You've
Yeah.
engaged a few of them. Yeah, but apart
Yeah.
from that, you're right. Most of us are probably accidental investors.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we're not we're not the exception, if you will. But also like hopefully like again from Hope we have even more and more people who have intentionally decided to be investors. Awesome. Let's jump into things. So there's a very common saying, oh, it takes the first few seconds for an investor to decide I'm going to invest or not. Is that myth or is that really true? Like, because I mean, people draw that line a lot of time, like, oh, it takes first 60 seconds. Like,
Mm-hmm,
really?
mm-hmm.
Like, it takes 30 seconds, really? So let's hear from you. Like, is it true that it takes 30 seconds for you to look at a pitch deck and say, I'm going to invest or not?
I would not quite, but I think sometimes it has taken me 15 seconds to just form an impression that nah, these guys are not it. Um, and sometimes it has to do with the design. Now, I don't want to say design, maybe the template of the pitch deck. When you see designs that, when, what's it called now? These Illustrator tools just came out, right? And
Mhm.
we didn't know what design was. And the form that they are using is stuff that we weren't even using 10, 15 years ago. Neon colors, red, one very awkward shade of red with orange and green. You just know that, nah, cancelled. That it is very unlikely, right? That doesn't mean it doesn't mean I won't go through the deck, but I just know somewhere in my guts that, nah, these guys are not it. I think sometimes through the coherence, you go through the deck and you're like, okay, so what do these guys do? But if at a high level there is some understanding or something piques my interest, I would probably move on to a call just to understand if it was that the person that handled the pitch deck just didn't know how to formulate the idea, because it's possible they gave somebody that really didn't have a deep understanding of the business and the person did a shoddy job and founders were just too busy to review before sending it to investors. But on the call, you definitely get the vibe of, do these guys even understand what they're doing? Is there coherence within this team? Is there clarity of thoughts? What's their thought process like? So
Right,
yeah, I
right,
think
right.
definitely sometimes within 60 seconds, you can know that, nah, this is not happening. But within 60 seconds, maybe you get 70% conviction. I don't think Nigerian investors are folks that just invest because they've seen a pitch deck.
Mm, mm.
We still need that evidence to back our gut
Right.
feeling. Yeah.
Right. Now, I mean, I think nobody should be invested after 60 seconds of seeing a pitch deck. But I think it's more like the for those who choose not to invest after seeing a second pitch deck. So I guess your point being like you can form an opinion, and an opinion. I mean, we're human being, biases are formed really
Mhm,
quickly, and also
mhm.
just again having a deck that shows that okay, you didn't really invest the required time and attention to putting this together. could really reflect to say, well, would that also carry along to how you build your product? Would that carry along to how you treat your customers? Would that carry along to how you even treat me as an investor in this venture as well? So yes, that could definitely be a signal. But thanks for sharing this how you see things. And then I think one thing to just to pull on back on that, the question was like who do you think should be responsible? Like I said, you said sometimes you actually have a call because the right person might not have worked on the pitch deck. So in your opinion, like who should be working on the pitch deck? Should it be a CEO thing? Should it be a team effort? Should it be the person that is marketing and perhaps design and just again the aesthetic kind of thing? Should it be the comms person? Like who is there ideal person on the founding team that should own or lead the effort when it comes to putting a pitch deck together?
I think that's a really good question. I think it's a collaborative effort. So probably the founder should do a rough sketch. And founders don't have time, right? They're probably not even going to go into Google Slides or whatever tool you are going to use. It may just be a voice note, or they may just do a black and white template. Or to make it easy for them, whoever is going to be handling investor relations can just form a template on slides for them. So you have put a subheading, problem, solution, team, traction, right? And I'm just sharing the slides that, dude, please don't stress my life. I've broken this thing down into little nuggets for you. Just go and write it the way you know how to write it. And then maybe a marketing person or somebody that has experience or specializes in startup pitch decks can now clean up the idea. But I would say that the founder, whoever initially put out the idea, should definitely review it to make sure it is communicating what the company actually does and nothing is lost in translation. So it's not going to be the founder that will design it or make it pretty, but it should have a first stab at it to make sure that the essence of the business is captured.
Yeah. And quick question at the back of that. You said founders are busy and everything. In-house versus outsourcing. Do you think again, like what is your take around people just again outsourcing their pitch deck? I mean, sometimes it's usually around the design bits, but even beyond the design, just again the articulating what needs to be done. So I know people will get someone like a comms person, a PR person. There's a new name for them now, like a storyteller kind of person, just again to say like, so like what's your take on that? Like, is that doing too much? Is that doing the most? Or do you think it's like, yes, this is what the investment and every startup should actually be looking to do that?
I don't think it's doing too much, but then I don't think it's a one size fits all. I've had a couple of people approach me actually to help them tell their story, as you said. But I think that hello?
Yeah, sorry, I can hear you.
Okay. I think my network is
No, we can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Please repeat the question. Sorry.
No, so I said about like doing the most with when it comes to like again getting a storyteller, outsourcing to a PR firm to like again, craft the narrative and things like that. Yeah.
I think so I've been on a couple of calls where I think a good part of being a founder is knowing what your weakness is. So I've been on a couple of calls where the founder is going on for 15 minutes and none of us on the call have an idea of what that company does. And I begin to, like, I'll be wondering, am I the crazy person? But then I go to the company group chats and everybody's like, what do these guys do? What is this guy explaining? But then maybe somebody else is on the team and he says, product designer or product manager, or I'm the CEO. And if the guy is smart and he knows the CEO's weakness, when the CEO is done, he'll now say, oh, I'd like to ride off of what X has said. And in 2 minutes, I kid you not, everybody's like, oh, okay, that's what you mean. So if you know that you are a co-founder in a company like that, and no more your CEO is storytelling is zero, just find a way to hijack that process and outsource it to somebody that knows what they are doing. That's if you cannot take it yourself, because you see some folks that just want to have all the power, even with the
Mm.
mundane things, right?
Mm.
So for a CEO like that, honestly, there's no way he would template out a deck and somebody without an understanding of that business will know what to do with it.
Right.
So if it's instances like that, I'll definitely say, if you know your storytelling is non-existent, just outsource the thing or give it to somebody on the team that's, maybe has been leading sales pitches or whatever, and customers at once understand what they're doing, or they are that charismatic person that really knows how to tell a story. Just give that person the deck. Just accept that it's not your calling. You are the technical guy. Go and write code. Just leave the storytelling to the people that can do it. It's true.
Right. So know yourself. Know the gaps, and
Definitely.
just make sure the person with that strength is doing the work in the team. Yeah, that makes sense. And if you have on the team again, outsource it. And also, if I think, but can it be learned though? So is it what for an investor? Is it what telling her like just sharing that as a feedback, and the founder actually like then deciding to actually develop that muscle to be a better storyteller? Like, I think for me, I mean, for me, a super founder is one who builds great product, but also knows how to actually tell the story about the product as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're rare, but so is it what's perhaps, I don't know, pushing or like advocating or trying like again make founders build that muscle of storytelling, or is it more like just don't bother, just again focus on what
I
you're
think it
strong
can
at?
be learned. Nobody came out of the womb knowing what they know today. I mean, if you prioritize it, it's definitely something that can be learned. And you don't want to be that founder that is known as the guy that cannot really explain the startup. Right. But again, people need to chill and come to that place of humility to say, I don't know how to do this thing. So it can be self-learning. But if you're not truthful with yourself, you wouldn't even go check out basic YouTube videos that give you a 5-minute presentation on maybe how to tell your story better or how to explain your startup better, right? But once you know that you have that gap, definitely, I think it's something worth learning.
Okay. So let's flip the script, because again, Hope members are investors. We see decks. So when we send that, we're gonna announce like HoaQ 9 like in a couple of weeks, because we have like list of deals and link to decks and everything. Like for you, like again, as you build this muscle, looking through thousands of decks, like you said, what have you come to, like again, what have you come away with to say, okay, here is how I identify like a deal worth paying attention to. Again, it doesn't have to be like, okay, I want to do this deal, but again, like I should actually pay attention to do. Are there anything that has come up over like on a recurring basis that again that just perhaps stand out to you in your mind? That's like, again, as you look at many decks as well, you need to decide on where to deploy capital. These are things that stand out for you.
I think a lot of the assessments hinges on the team. To be honest, and they don't have to be. So you see so usually when you're going through a deck and the first page is the intro or the where they put the name of the company, and page 2 is team, just notice you see that maybe somebody went to Stanford or MIT or Oxford and they're just trying to brandish that right off, right? But just past all of that, how much relevant experience does the team have in solving this problem? Right. I spoke with a founder a couple of days ago, and I think she was, experience-wise, she's one of the founders that really impressed me in a long time. From the beginning, she always knew she wanted to do a business. I think she also always knew that it was going to be retail. So she had built a professional experience intentionally in that line. So she had selected a global brand. She had worked in a local market from the beginning, supply, talking to mom and pop stores, distribution. She knew how everything worked in Africa, in a locale, end to end. She had worked with the same company in the UK, and also with just multiple lines and multiple brands, right? To understand how retail really works. So when you see founders like that, it's difficult not to be impressed, because you understand that this person has committed even their professional development to this, right? It's legit their life's work. So definitely, how much relevant experience do they have? You said that you want to build a cross-border something, something, something. Are you an engineer? Are you a fintech engineer? Do you know where to put a decimal point that, 1 million will not disappear instead of 10,000? These are the questions, right? For folks that say okay, so again, you say you want to do retail. Is there anybody on the team there has to be at least one strong person? So the way teams are usually split, I think there's one CTO person, the technical person that just heads down building. But there's one person that is likely more business inclined, but has domain expertise. So even where the CTO lacks, there's somebody that says, oh, this is the usual journey of the customer. This is how we should build out our product, right? So that has to be split. I think they are favorites. The way people see X Paystack, X Andela, they are
operator stand founders.
Exactly. Okay. And one other thing, team-wise, one other thing you're probably measuring for is grades, especially if they're in the fintech industry. And these guys showed previous commitment to going through something. Because if CBN wakes up today and says new policy, is that the end of the business? Right. So you need to look for people that their work ethic just multiplies with every obstacle.
But how do you gauge for that from a deck without meeting the founders? Like, is it more like what they've done, their previous stuff, their previous work? Like
usually it's just previous work and things so questions like this when they occur to you, and you check the deck and you're suspecting some things, you would ask for a call just to validate or verify some things that you were thinking. Right. Especially if you know that maybe somebody was at a company when they had an issue. So your question would be, oh, what happened? How were you able to navigate that part? How did you find your way out of a bad situation? Questions like that.
Okay. For folks who have questions, please, you can use the raise hand feature, and we can call you to ask your questions. Again, we're looking at anatomy of a winning pitch deck. On that point, on your last point that you mentioned, I know some people actually will outsource the subject matter expertise to advisors. So this would be like, oh, I have no idea about health, but maybe like, for example, I mean, it could be like, okay, maybe I lost somebody, so but I don't know the system, but I lost somebody to something, and I want to act that's the motivation. But then to understand that space, I will get advisors who have built experience or work in that space. But me and my co-founders, we have no domain expertise whatsoever. For you, is that
tricky? It's tricky. It's tricky. I think that co-founders should complement each other. So why are you a team of 3 and nobody has any type of health experience, but you are building a telemed startup? So you don't, so a couple of things worry me. Nobody has any sort of inroads to medical networks or whatever. So if you were going to onboard doctors and nurses in Lagos, how will you start? Where are you going to? Right. But if you already belong to these associations and you know how these things work, it's easier for you to say, oh, I'm already a doctor in, I don't know, Luz already or in St. Ives, and, we need help with this. But it's tricky. If there are 3 people, for example, or even 2, one person should have some sort of, deep experience with the medical community.
Right. Perhaps we go with to convert those advisors to co-founders.
Well, there's that. And that makes more sense if it's a solo founder and the advisor isn't somebody that has, when you say somebody that's been working maybe 15 years in a corporate, it's not going to leave that corporate and that, it's not going to leave that to go to your startup, dude. Be realistic.
Fair. Okay, so yeah, I guess, and I think that's a very important point, because one thing at least that we try to look at from our assessment is, yes, are we convinced about the opportunity here? Are we convinced about how the market is, blah blah blah. But I think also are there can we remove and abstract less and less obstacles from this person being able to succeed at this? And again, domain expertise is just one of them. Like you said, if it's time to go to market now, like someone that tries to sell to schools, and you have nobody that understands the politics and the bureaucracy and just the landscape of actually again selling B2B to universities and things like that, then again it might be a great app, it might be a great innovation and solution, but that's all it's going to be. And I guess you're right. It's like how do you optimize for for success. Yeah, I think I have a question. I think I saw one hand go up.
Yes, we do. From a Toby.
Toby, yeah, Toby, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Nubian. Hi, Ife. Thanks for for what you shared. I'm just curious for you, how much weight would you place behind, um, I guess, domain expertise? So specifically, I'm just thinking about new areas within technology. So think social media, right? Or think crypto NFTs that didn't necessarily exist. So I'm just wondering, how do you, I guess, how do you figure out, would this person be able to build this or solve this, even if it's somewhere we can't judge domain expertise? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I think one way you can judge domain expertise in a new field is to gauge the founder's commitment to acquiring knowledge in that field. So a couple of people that went into crypto were folks that were already maybe in fintechs or in financial services, and they were curious about crypto. And then over maybe 6 months, all you see them tweeting about or posting about or sharing public knowledge about is crypto. You see them leading movements or communities where, even though they don't know, they are now leveraging maybe foreigners that have started building knowledge in that field, right, to come and teach folks in Nigeria, for example. But if I remember I was on something last year and I was telling people that we were touching on domain expertise as well. And I was saying that if somebody like me just comes to HoaQ, for example, and says, "Oh, I newbie, I'm starting a crypto company," he will probably laugh at me and move on, because I'm pretty sure I've never typed the word crypto on my Twitter, for starters. There is no, I don't have a crypto portfolio. So that's another way to go about it. I don't have a crypto portfolio that I'm managing. It's not like I've helped people, I've learned lessons, and burnt my own money, right? But if for example, I decide that, okay, the only way to learn about crypto is to get into crypto, and I start sharing my journey online, for example, or I'm in a community where people know that I'm publicly learning, right? Folks can always go to my portfolio and see my improvements over time. So I think just sharing that commitment to learning that knowledge is just very, very important. Crypto cannot come, except I have some type of social capital. Say crypto started yesterday and I'm a relatively unknown person. I can't just come today and say I'm starting a crypto startup. Everybody will be like, "Who are you?" Right? So definitely sharing that you have commitment to acquiring knowledge in that new field. And there are different ways to just pick at that. That's the best way to go about it, in my opinion. And Nubi may have some thoughts.
No, just to say, like, I mean, I think also, like, if you leave that conversation and you have learned something, because as well, like, I think that's one thing that actually also show that the person actually like also like learning as well. That person then has like information that you didn't have. They have knowledge that you didn't have, and you're like, "Oh, okay, this person seems to know their stuff now." I think also perhaps even the humility as well to again be open as like, this is my journey in actually like learning this and knowing what's going on in this space. But yeah, it's down to the commitment, like you said, the commitment of like, yes, I'm not a master in this field. It's a relatively new field. I'm never expected to be a master in it, but I'm actually I am putting in the required efforts to understand the landscape, and this is the opportunity I have identified and I want to go after. I think that comes across. But yeah, that's a very important question. I think also like it's there'll be.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a quick
Sorry,
follow-up, since
okay,
we're talking about them. Oh, sorry. A quick follow-up, since we're talking about decks. Is there a way I could, or a founder could, reflect this within a deck? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, for example, like I think again, like I said, if you're part of a community, if you're leading a community of crypto, like if you've done a course on crypto on Udacity or something, I mean, there are ways you can show that you are developing knowledge and you are building thought leadership as well. If you have a blog on crypto and linking your blog and things like that, the same way a developer will link their GitHub repository
Yeah.
to stuff, like just showing you again, I have credibility in
Yeah.
this area now, and I'm putting effort in learning that space. So I think yes,
Yeah.
there are ways you can go about it. I don't know if you've seen any interesting
And
ways of people have done that as well.
yeah. And usually what I found is that if you are consistent enough, and sometimes consistency is just maybe posting every day or every other day for 1 month, they will start looking for you. So nobody knows what, okay, so say crypto just started. Nobody has an idea of what crypto is. But if somebody sees that this guy has been posting for 1 month on his blog, you see people start reaching out to you. So then you are more, maybe you start appearing on, say, Arise TV, Bloomberg, you start gaining that international validation. So then, of course, content on you as a thought leader becomes very visible. Quick Google search, people can find a video on you talking about the subject matter. For a number of international investors, to be honest, that suffices just to show that, yes, you've been putting in the work and you understand the space.
I hope that answers the questions, Toby.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome,
Awesome.
cool. I know we're way above the half hour mark, but I was like just rapid fire questions for you, Ife, on just again anatomy of a winning pitch deck for you. Ideal number of slides, it doesn't matter. Like again, is there like an ideal number? But like again, too long, too short, not enough information. Like just.
I think most people burn out at 10 to 15 pages.
Okay. So keep
Once it starts
keep it
getting to
simple.
20, 25, 30, it's getting maybe but 10 to 15. And I think I've always been I've always preferred succinctness to like fluff. So even if it's 15 pages, make sure that every single page
something.
is relevant. Versus you just wanted to get to 15 pages and then slide 2, slide 3, slide 4. Why is this here? Why is this here? Why is this here? Again, it speaks to clarity of thoughts. Why, like, just forget about putting fillers. Just explain your business at first.
Right.
And then I just think if there's substance, the traction that you need will come eventually.
Right. Which slides do you think is the least like relevant? So for example, like we have the problem, solution, markets, the TAM, you have the team, you have how much you're raising, things like that. Like for you, what slide do you think people just is the biggest fluff, like or the most frequent fluff? Like, okay, this is just waffle, you don't need to have this here.
I think most people mentally skip markets. I think so, especially for early stage investing. It's like best case scenario. What you are written is a guesstimation. Best case, or you have just looked. If you look hard enough, you'll find numbers that support what you want to do.
Right, exactly.
And it doesn't even really have to make sense.
You can manipulate numbers.
You can manipulate data.
To say the story that you want. Very true. What about like the I'm assuming the team is then the most for you. Is that the most important slide, or is there a more important?
One of the most important. But I think folks need to start putting a slide that explains how their product works. Because sometimes you read, if there's a problem slide, there's a solution slide, then your questions are around, okay, so is this a platform? Is this USSD? Is this WhatsApp? Is this app? Is this? So even if it's like a 4-liner that says, oh, customer X, then our product does Y, this does Z, and this is how the customer is sorted. That may be helpful, especially when you are in fields, as Toby said, that are relatively new centers of knowledge. People don't understand how it works. So don't speak technical jargon, because investors will run away when they don't understand your business. But if you're able to just simplify and break this down, that, oh, this is how the customer journey is, that may really help.
Right. A lot of people always like include or do not include their funding like
Mhm,
debts. And for me, I really don't understand the rationale. I think maybe because they are negotiating different rates with different
both of
investors.
us.
But for you, like, what's the best way you've seen people articulate that the investor says, oh, because again, I tell people, I say, oh, I'm raising 150K, 50% technology, 50% marketing, 50% this, and I'm like, okay, how did you come to that? And I'm like, but what has been the best way you've seen people actually like make the request as like how much are they going to raise and how they plan to deploy that capital? Like any tips, anything that actually like you've seen about say, okay, this is actually
I
a
think
good way.
I think a trend I'm seeing now, which is not necessarily um there's this trend where people are not putting valuations.
Yes.
So it's like you saying DM for price, which annoys me. Tell me how much. So for example, if I work for an investor that would write a maximum of, I don't know, 50K. If you are raising 5 million, 10 million, let me just know from the word go that this is out of my league. Not
Right.
that we'll not get on a call and there's so now when founders don't rate you, so see, here's a typical scenario. I have no idea how much you're raising. There's probably no public information of you raising, but I think your company is interesting. Because you as the founder have all the information. You start off the call and you're talking to me with a bit of attitude. Or you're asking me weird questions that if I had known how much you're raising, we wouldn't be in that situation. So what's your typical check size? So what opportunity? Meanwhile, I don't even know if you're raising seed, pre-seed. These days, we don't even know the difference. Why people are raising $30 million seed. But at least let me know.
Right.
So I just know, this is out of our league. If we're asking for a call and we don't want to waste this founder's time, at least there should be 50 to 70% interest in shifting our typical check size. So I think even if you're not putting valuation, because maybe that's what you can really, really negotiate on to inflate or push, the value of the company. You can always write the amount. We are raising, I don't know, $3 million to XYZ our products. So our distribution, close out X. So maybe you've even already closed out some partnerships, but you need money to push into integrations and actually execute. Just don't. I'm not sure they really need percentages, but well, that's cool.
Right.
Well, I've also seen instances where people are raising money and maybe 70% or 80% is going into salaries. That's another interesting one. So I guess if you know upfront that almost everything is going into people's pockets, it's a good thing to know ahead of
Fair
time.
enough. I guess, yeah, I guess that's a good thing to know. Yeah, but I think the ones I've seen that I actually like, I've started to like is where there are milestones. And again, I mean, I'm not to hold the people to those milestones, but I think also those milestones are just justified because they've had some traction before that. So with being scrappy, they were able to acquire like 5K customers, and they say, okay, if you actually give us this much money, we would get to this number of customers as well. Yeah,
That's
so
a
I
really
think
smart one.
yeah, so that for me has been impressive to say we'll do this, we'll do that, and then we'll acquire this many of customers who will give us this level of revenue and stuff. So I think that's also a good one to look out for as well. But again, like I said, like early stage, like you said, a lot of guesstimates there. So it's not like you're holding them to
and things move fast.
really quickly. Yeah.
Most, especially if they are pre-accelerator, let them go into 500 or YC or Texas. It's probably not the same products that will come out. The only thing that remains the same is the team, right? And the ability to settle on an idea that makes sense and execute. That's really what you're betting on.
Indeed. So we can talk about it again. Problem solution. So from your point of view, like should founders be spending more time articulating the problem or the solution, or is it of equal measure? And the reason why I ask is that it's very easy to be excited about the solution and say, oh, this is how we plan to fix it, or this is the product, this is the app and all. And one could really like, again, not carry that person along. So I'm just wondering again from the data that you've been seeing and just again your experience, and judging again by the deck, because that's what you have in your front at the time, like what's that balance between again investing in articulating the problem, where perhaps that's what actually gets the investor excited, or as an investor, should I be again trying to like spend more time understanding the problem that's been put in front of me in that deck versus the solution, or vice versa? Or like, yeah, what's your take?
I'll say equal measure. Also in the problem, if you can include how it works now that your product doesn't exist, that would be really that really helps investors
Gives weight. Yeah.
understand where you're coming from, right? A problem exists. You're not Einstein, you're not the super smart. You may be super smart, but you're not the first super smart person. What have people tried to do? So it could be that your product is making a process more efficient. You say you are doing a telemed, okay, there's a hospital. People have to line up maybe for right now, people have to line up like 5 hours to see a doctor, depending on where you're working with. Your app helps beat this by maybe 90 something percent, and in 5 minutes, patients are connected to a healthcare professional, something like that. But there's a way that process is working now, or that problem is being solved right now, that could really help bolster the problem slide. Solution, of course, it's also part of this how the product works thing. You want to make people understand that I think between problem and solution is a really good way to show folks that I have thought deeply about this problem. I have engaged with the problem personally. And this is a smart solution that I think, not that I think, that we have seen work, and we have built a bit of traction around. So for problem and solution, I think equal measure.
Yeah. So again, just to flip it on from an investor's point of view, because again, people are going to be looking at decks and all. So just again, looking at again, is there enough signal to show that this founder is actually like has a deep understanding of this problem, and it takes like again, I would say a level of naivety, but almost like pride to say, no, there's no solution for it except for mine. So because I've come along now, that's why to be solved. You're like,
See,
so I think
if I ask you about competition and you say in Africa there's nobody, I'm like, you're not self-aware. You're not self-aware. There's somebody somewhere, even if their model is not exactly yours, there's somebody that's mirroring something closely. So a great follow-up question I like to ask those guys that say, oh, there's no competition. I just say, so are there companies in the US, Latin, Europe that you think are very closely modeled to what you're trying to build? If you tell me no again, then there's a real big problem. It just tells me you have not researched Jack, right? But if you are able to, as some accelerators, like when you explain your business like this, if you're able to say, we are building Amazon for drugs, so you're able to compare.
We
are building Stripe for Africa, DoorDash for Africa, Amazon for Africa, right? There must be somewhere that is like a source of truth, especially when you start talking to investors that don't have local context. If I'm a US investor, I've never stepped foot in Africa, you need to be able to point me to somebody that is close to what you're doing, just so that I have that knowledge. I say, oh, okay, cool.
Oh,
so
right.
extra, so.
And for so that's problem solution, and then of course like markets, which you said, like sometimes it's just finger in the air, hoping and guesstimating and finding the data that correlates with what you're looking for. Then demos. Let's talk about demos. A lot of people like try to embed like perhaps videos and stuff into their application, so you can actually like again see how like a pretty more like show and tell. Like what are your thoughts on that? Some other people actually just use like screens instead of again like a video, just again static screens. So here are the steps and all. Any preference? What are your overall takes on your again product demos within pitch decks?
I am pro product demos. So even if you don't have one in your deck, sometimes I would ask ahead of the call. Sometimes right after the call, I would ask. And why that's priority to me is because the funds I work with, we invest in stuff that exists. So if you're I'm sorry. If you're not if you're not an idea stage investor, right, it's important for you to at least invest in something that's at least as an MVP and has gathered some sort of traction. Even if it's your cousins, your family members, get them on that app. And then you can confidently say, 10 people, 30 people have already used the app. These are our learnings from those guys, and this is what we are iterating on before we do a public launch. So yeah, you don't. I've also seen somebody embed it in the deck, but there was a password to it, just so there's access to who is checking out the demo, which works. Yeah. So if the fear is that you don't know where to land, especially if it's not a public video, you can put measures like that to protect your product.
Okay. So yes to demos, and they always actually put control if there's a fear of like
or access credentials that people can just use, download the product and just test by themselves to see how it works.
Yeah.
Since you claim it works.
Yeah. On the issue of access, just a passing question. How do you prefer to get your decks? Do you prefer like attachments or links, like links to doc sends and stuff? What's your preferred?
See, I mean different though. WhatsApp. If I have some decks that are interesting, how do you anyway? Well, send me 10 decks, please. I'm looking for people to invest in. Send me decks on WhatsApp or doc send link. But I think something we should be wary about though. Especially when you're receiving links, is that most of those links show clearly, or apart from access controls, it's able to also show founders that this is how much time this person spent on my deck.
Correct.
So if you know that you are not interested or you are not going to be bothered, don't stress people's children. I think there's software that also shows you like what page. They stop that. So imagine doing 15 slides and one investor just gets to page 3. And I think there was some sort of wala on Twitter one time. Somebody was talking about how folks will get to their 10th slide. And maybe because they've seen a black person, or it's all female, or it's not just, it's too diverse for them. They just end it, right? So if you're getting doxed, just be wary that somebody back end is looking at saying, see this effect girl. After all the chasing and stressing my life for page 3 out of 20 slides. So, and then you just start getting a reputation as somebody that can't be bothered with slides. Versus PDF, so you can say, oh, acknowledge, sync. And you just never even check it and you come with some bull story. So I think the story you're alluding to was the guy got to the team slide and had a black person on it and then sent an email and said, they should get back to them if they have traction. And they were like, the traction was just the following slide after the team slide. You never got to traction. Why are you giving school? That's the one. It's like, dude, you didn't get to traction. Just say that there's a black person, you're not interested. Let's move on. Say it with your chest.
All right, cool. We'll check again for, I know we have just 6 minutes more to round up the call, but any questions from folks? Again, we're looking at anatomy of a winning pitch deck with Ife from Barrywood Capital. So any questions? Because I know you got, like I said, in 2 weeks' time, there will be like a bunch of decks landing in your inboxes to review for deals.
Have you guys seen any guys that are raising, but they are in an accelerator now? Are you guys talking to any of those guys?
Wait, are you like deal sourcing right now on this call?
No. I was no, actually, I was just curious about the kinds of valuations that you guys have been seeing because.
Oh, right. Well, we've gone like we try to go even early now, so because we can we don't have stamina for YC valuations,
right?
So we've started to go even pre, like almost like when last time we did pre 2 rounds before 2 rounds or 3 rounds before YC.
Yeah, because the valuations are getting scary. Getting scary.
They are getting scary, but I guess I also think winter is coming as well. At least my personal opinion. I think things will start to cool off because growth stages. Now we have people who have raised their seed 2-3 years ago and they've not raised a Series A. Just because there's nothing they can show for So
exactly.
I think
I've always said as you are raising, just make sure your product is doing what you say is doing because. Terra knows are packaging. We are on standby.
Yeah.
Winter. That would be interesting to watch.
Indeed. Cool. So I guess any questions from folks, please you can raise your hand. Any questions? And this is that we're opening it again up for questions. We are in pitch deck, HoaQ, anything, Barrywood. If you have any questions, if it was the best way for people to, I don't know if you're soliciting, well, what's the best way if people want to connect with you? Yeah, just curious.
You can send me a DM on Twitter or send me an email, ife@berrywoodcap.com.
Okay, ife@berrywoodcap.com.
Or you can reach out to Ruby. He knows how to reach out to me. So.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. Yes, I do.
Yes,
so if you want to connect with Ife as well, feel free to reach out. I guess we'll start to round off now. Like I said, we are concluding HoaQ 8 this week. So for those who make commitments to any deals as well, please do follow through. I think most are already in. So we're closing that out, and we'll start issuing investment documents throughout the month of April for HoaQ 8 deals. And then, like I said, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be actually again announcing the first set of deals for HoaQ 9. So please do keep your eyes peeled for that announcement. We're again available in the office hours channel on Slack. If you have any questions, any feedback, how we can make these sessions better and more valuable to you, please do reach out with that feedback as well. But again, I think I'll ask the last question for. Oh, we have a hand up again. Oh, Toby. Okay. First time listener and frequent listener. What's that saying again? Yeah, Toby, what's up? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask a question with regards to valuation, which you had mentioned. I'm
Right.
just I guess I'm curious how. So if someone doesn't put valuation or talk about valuation in their deck, but the reason why is because they want to explore that with the VC or with the investors. I'm just kind of curious, what does that look like to you as an investor? Could it be like, oh, this person doesn't know what they are doing versus I'm just kind of trying to balance. I'm trying to understand, especially for like early stage, maybe pre-seed, seed, where market sizing, people can bullshit themselves, if we'll be honest. And I'm just kind of, because you said you'd like to see it, and I personally, it's fine if it's there. But also I'm just wondering, how important is it if I want to explore that conversation with investors?
If it's just the valuation, usually if we go on to have a chat post deck review, I would ask valuation on the call. And if you don't respond, I don't know how I'm supposed to make a complete investment decision without having all the information, right? But on the deck, I was saying earlier that you should at least put how much you are raising. If you want to leave out valuation, that's fine. But when it's on the call, and if your valuation is way past the firm's usual.
No, I guess his question was more like some founders would say like, oh, I've not set a valuation because I'm still engaging with investors who might pass like lead the round, and then we'll set the price. And so at that point in time, like, how much do you push for one, or do you just have them get back to you? Like, is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. We've had that happen a couple of times actually, and that's fine. Because in new rounds, especially, is the lead investor that will set a couple of terms. So it just makes sense that you wrap up discussions with the lead investor to a certain point. So if that is the case, that's fine. Usually I would say, okay, cool. Once you guys wrap up the end of the discussion, let us know. So that we can really make a commitment.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think you can also push for a cap though. Like, so yes, the lead investor sets the price, but you can say, I hope it won't go exactly what range, because like you said, you have your mandate that's like you have to be like, these are the parameters in which you deploy capital as well. So I guess if you can't get the exact valuation, you can say, okay, like what's the range you're looking at, and then when you actually settle with a lead investor, we can actually then come and say, okay, yes, no, like we wanted discounts,
Yep.
like again, negotiate and things like that.
Especially when the fund has very stringent investment terms. We do X $1,000 for X percent, and this is the valuation we usually
We do
settle
it.
at. It then
Yeah.
becomes a conversation of, are you aware that these are our investment terms? Yes, no. Are you open to those terms? Cool. Okay, no problem. So yeah,
Thank you.
great addition, Nubi.
Oh, we are at time. Can we take one more question? One last question before we go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Apurva, how's it going? You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hey, hi everyone. Nice to meet all of you. I'm very new to the club. I was introduced to the club by my friend Kobe.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And really excited to be here. Thank you. Sorry, I missed a lot. I really wanted to join today's AMA, but I missed a big chunk of it because there was a customer call which came at the last moment, and I had to attend it. So
Right.
I'll watch the recording again. Nubi's been helping me with a couple of recordings.
Sure.
Yeah, but like just one thing I wanted to ask, I'm new to the club. I've joined the Slack channel. I'm like really interested in some of the ongoing deals. How can I get started? If somebody can help me out with some of the go-to things, then that'll be like really awesome.
Exactly. That's fine. And again, welcome to the club. And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll share the recordings for this session afterwards. So like I mentioned, sorry, not like I mentioned because you were not here. But you could actually definitely, like, if you have any questions, myself, Olake, Temi, Joe, we sit in this channel called Office Hour on Slack. So if you have any questions, you can always pop in there. We can always jump on a huddle, like again, have a video chat or audio chat, whatever you need. But right now, if you go to the deals channel, there's a link to the Notion doc that has every open deal. You can check the memos, the decks. Another one of the question I'm going to ask you before we go. Memo decks, and then commitments form. And once you commit as well, like again, just let us know. We'll definitely like talk to you around, like again, wiring funds and things like that. So yes, we are available. Feel free to reach out to that channel or DMs as well. So yeah, feel free. Like we all started from where you are right now. So definitely we're all there to support you and make sure that you're set up and perhaps getting to help the next person who joins as well in a few months time. But welcome again, and yeah, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Naveed. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, my last question for you, last final question for you, Ife. Memos. I've started seeing a new trend where founders are drafting memos, not decks. So in fact, they don't have decks at all. They're like, here's my memo instead of my deck. Thoughts on that? Any thoughts?
Yeah. I think it's actually cool. They do this mini Notion sites things, and
yeah,
I think it's really cool. I think even if you don't share it with an investor, it's important that you go through that process as a founder to really understand if what you're doing makes sense. Documenting an idea in its entirety, it's definitely something every founder rather needs to go through. So whether you decide to share that with the investor or not, it's up to you.
Yeah.
I don't
discriminate.
Just give me something that you're comfortable. And I always specify now, share with me a document that has as much information as you are comfortable
sharing.
Because there's also a trend of paranoid founders. Dude, you're not the only fintech founder in Nigeria. But the person just believes that, this person is going to steal my idea, or you're invested in a similar company, and so you carry my deck and go and give. Just share with me what you're comfortable sharing. And what is enough for me to use to make an investment decision.
Right. Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you. Writing helps with clarity of clarity of thoughts. And so you be able to again write and articulate what you're doing and refine, because you won't get it the first time. You actually like write and review and update and like really cut away a lot of fluff and waffle and really refine that. And then having that to then convert to even a deck, even is an easier process as opposed to starting from a plain
And any
shooters
designer
or
you give
cameras,
that knows he has ample information to work with.
to work
Even
with
if
as
it's
well.
10 slides, bam, 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 bam,
Mm.
eating all the right notes, all the way.
Fair. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to put a stop at that. Thank you so much, Ife, for coming out to talk to us
Thank you for having me.
on the session. And thank you guys, everyone, for joining us for the hour and 6 minutes. Well, maybe 7 minutes after I finished speaking. But I appreciate you. So again, if you want to come back and get in touch with Ife, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to make intros. But again, if without keep an eye out for the inbox. Lots of emails coming our way. And like I said, if you have any feedback, questions, we'll be in the office hours channel. Feel free to reach out. Thanks again, guys, and have a great evening.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.